everyone, welcome back to the Cozy Soul Knitting Podcast. My name is Saoirse. If you are new here, hello, welcome. Thank you for clicking on this video. I hope for all of you watching, I hope this gives you some great knitting time or whatever you like to do while you're watching knitting podcasts. It's been pretty much exactly 2 weeks since my last podcast. If you watched that one, I was downstairs because this room was way too hot to film in, and it doesn't get a lot of natural light, so I have to use a little ring light. Otherwise, things would just be too dark. Today, however, I don't know exactly how cool it is outside, but it is gray, it's overcast. Unfortunately it's not raining. I wish it was raining because I'm in that mood where I'm tired of summer. I want it to rain again. It rained a couple of days ago, like earlier this week, and it was the most amazing thing. Like, was obsessed with it. Just the noise, all of it. I love the sound of rain. It's like the best, literally the best sound. Today though, it's still a little warm up here. I think it's kind of one of those days where it might be a little muggy out, not terribly humid. I live in the greater Seattle area, for anyone who is new to this channel. So yeah, we're kicking off fall here, which I'm very excited about. And I love that as knitters, when we're talking about the weather, it's not small talk really. Like, it's actually relevant to the knitting. Where you meet people and you're like, oh yeah, this weather, huh? Like, you're talking about the weather, but like with knitters, it's like people would probably be like, oh, why are you making small talk about the weather? But like, we're not. We're talking about important things because it affects what we're wearing in our knitting and all of that. So I thought that was funny. I thought of that the other day and I was like, that's pretty funny. Like, if anyone else was like overhearing two knitters talk about the weather, they'd be like, oh, those people are probably like not super comfortable around each other, they're making small talk, or they don't know each other very well, so all they can do is make small talk. But like, no, they're they're actually talking about important knitting things. Okay, I was running up and down the stairs gathering all of my WIPs and all of my finished objects and all of the yarn and everything, so I'm a little like overheated now, so apologies if I look sweaty or anything. Hopefully I don't. The last time I was filming up here with my ring light, I was so glowy. It was like startling. When I went to edit that video, I was like, oh no. So I don't know. I mean, it probably didn't bother anybody, I hope, but it bothered me. I was like, oh my god, like, it looked like I just like bathed in a highlighter, and I swear I didn't. It was just the like foundation I was using or something was like too glowy. So I went a little bit more matte today to try to balance out the sweat. Okay, anyways, let's go ahead and get started. I feel like this has been a weird intro, so hope I haven't scared people off. Okay, I don't want to start with that. I just picked up my first finished object, but I want to save that for I want to talk about a different one. So we're going to talk about my first finished, sorry, I'm so sorry. We're talking about what I'm wearing first. Oh my gosh. So if you watched my last podcast, this will look familiar to you. I casted this on right before I went down to Oregon, which was in August. Or no, I think I might have left like at the end of July to go down to the Oregon coast for 3 weeks. And I casted this on like right before I left. Just wanted to get it on the needle so I would have it to knit on while I was down there and have it already started and like ready to go. And so this is one of those projects that I casted it on in between podcasts, and then I also finished it in between podcasts. So I casted on and finished it in between podcasts, so it only made one appearance on this podcast. But this is the Farnham tee by the Knit Purl Girl, and I knit this one in Sandnes Line or Lena. Looking to see if my dog like recognized her. She's like looking at me like, why are you talking about me? My dog's name is Lena, if you're new here, and you didn't know that. So I think it's funny that some people pronounce it Lena. Her ears just like perked up. She's like, well, what are you saying about me? Anyways, so I don't know how to pronounce it. I I think I'm just gonna flip-flop between Line and Lena, and yeah. But anyways, I knit it in their green tea colorway and their white colorway, obviously, for the stripes. And yeah, in my last podcast, I was a little bit, just ever so, just a tad bit critical, maybe a little bit more than that, of how this turned out. I made a lot of mistakes while I was knitting on this. This was definitely a construction that was unfamiliar to me, and I just hadn't really knit anything quite like it before. I confused myself. I think I overthought some things, and there were certain parts in the pattern that I think were written in a way that like probably weren't confusing to most people, but for some reason like I was a bit confused. I think I'm just like unfamiliar with the way that she writes her pattern, so I think I just need to like get used to her as a pattern designer, and then I'll feel a little bit more comfortable, because I had the same, I'm also knitting the Semper sweater, and I had kind of the same experience where I'm like, wait, why, like, this is so simple, why am I overthinking this, like, and just the way it was written out just didn't quite click for me. But I don't think that's nothing about like the pattern and the way it was written. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it was just like, you know, sometimes people explain things and it'll make sense to some people, but other people just need it explained in a different way. I think that's what happened here, you know? So I made a few mistakes, but I actually, now that I've had like some distance from it, I actually really like it. And I did have someone in the comments in my last podcast mention that they thought that this yarn does block out really well, and I feel like I have to agree, so I'm gonna show you. So like, I guess, yeah, I'll get my hair out of the way as much as possible. But yeah, this is the fit here. This is the how it looks on. I think I did have a video of this unblocked in my last podcast episode, but this is it blocked, and I feel like it did block out really nicely. I mean, there's still a little pulling, I guess, like going on here. I don't want to be too repetitive for my last episode, but I didn't pick up the stitches very well on the neckline. I, for some reason, could not get more stitches on. I could only get the amount of stitches that the extra small, or like the smallest size, called for, and I think I was knitting, for reference, I'm a 41-inch bust. I was knitting size G, but this turned out to be more of a size F in the pattern. So I think it's about 47 inches at the bust. So anyways, but yeah, the neckline gave me some difficulty for some reason. I'm still not really sure why, but I'm not great at picking up stitches. So that's just like number one thing to call out. I'm not great at it. I don't feel super confident doing it, but I think it's just something I'll get better at, and you know, it is what it is. So, but I actually, despite the difficulties that I had with it, and despite it being, I think, a little bit bigger than I was picturing in my head, because I'm still kind of new at like visualizing like how much, you know, what does 6 inches of positive ease look like on me? Like I'm still trying to visualize that. So I think it's like got a little bit of extra fabric, I feel like, kind of right around my arms and stuff, like, or my armpits, and the sleeves are like a lot longer on me, I think. I am 5 feet tall, so that makes sense. But yeah, there's just like a lot of extra fabric, I think, that I wasn't expecting. But overall, I'm actually, like, it's growing on me. Like, I really quite like it. I think it blocked out really nicely. And yeah, so I'm excited to wear this more. This is actually my first day wearing it because I was gonna wear it yesterday, but then I was going over to my friend's house and she has dogs and they love me, obviously. Because I'm definitely, you know, they can just tell. They're like, you're a dog person, we love you, like, and they just jump all over me. And I don't mind, and I feel like I don't really do anything to discourage it. And they get really excited when they see me. And so I didn't want to wear this because I was like, they're gonna jump on me and probably like pull some stitches out and stuff, so that's probably not a good idea. And then the days before, I wasn't like going anywhere, so I just didn't want to wear this, and like, you know, I wanted to wear it like out, or at least where it would be seen by other people. So this is my first time wearing it, and I love it. I actually really love it. It's really comfortable, and I feel like I feel like it'll be a good transitional piece. I feel like the fabric is a little thicker than I personally would want in the summertime, like on a really, really hot day. And there's a lot of fabric, you know, so I don't know if I would wear it like in the dead of summer, but as a transitional piece like into fall, and then when we're, you know, heading into spring, I think this is going to be a really great thing. And you know, if I need to layer, I'm hopefully going to be knitting some cardigans soon, so you know, throw on a cardigan over it, and or something, I don't know, and it'll be nice. So yeah, that's the Farnham tee. That's what I'm wearing today. And let's get into finished objects. Also, if you knit this, let me know what yarn you used, because I'm looking at potentially I would like to knit another one at some point, and I want to try out some different yarn. I want to see what other yarns might be good for this. So if you have knit this, let me know what yarn you used and if you thought it worked well for the pattern. My project bags are just chaos right now because I've been really bad at like putting things back into the project bags, and so some of my projects didn't even have a project bag this time around, and so I was just like throwing, like when I was getting everything together, like just like 10 minutes ago, I was like throwing everything into random bags, and like might be a little disorganized today. Please bear with me. So my first finished object, I'm so excited. I love how this turned out, and it's not blocked yet, so bear that in mind, keep that in mind. But this is my Oslo hat, and oh my goodness, I love it so much. This hand-dyed yarn is amazing, incredible. I love it so much. I like how it looks tie-dyed. Like, I don't know, I think it's just like something about the color combination and the way that they dyed it, and maybe the way that it pooled in certain spots. It just looks to me like it's tie-dyed, and I love that so much. And I feel like not all variegated yarns end up having that look, but this, I just feel like, I'm like, yeah, it looks tie-dyed. So yeah, this is the Oslo Hat by PetiteKnit. I'm gonna kind of do that thing where like I don't fully pull it on my head because I am wearing makeup and I don't want to like get it on the hat. So this probably looks really stupid, but it's not supposed to be this slouchy in the back because it's not fully down on my head, but I think it turned out perfect. It's like the perfect size. I think it has a little bit of room if it's gonna stretch at all. It's a little snug, so I feel like, you know, it'll be perfect if it stretches just a little bit. And I love the color. I love, I didn't say what the yarn is. It is QuarterCakes. It's their Superwash Merino DK, and it's in the colorway 2 scoops. And I will leave I'll leave a couple links down below. I'll leave a link to the QuarterCakes website. It's like the hand dyer's website. And I will also leave a link to, there's a yarn store in Astoria, Oregon, and I think QuarterCakes, I think I said in my last podcast that they were based out of Astoria. I don't think that they are. I think they're based out of Portland. Yeah, super close, whatever, but maybe somewhere between those two cities. But anyways, I bought this yarn in Astoria, and at a yarn shop called, I hope I'm saying it right, it's like homespun, it's either homespun quilts and yarn or homespun yarn and quilts. I'm not sure what the order is, but they have like exclusive to them colorways from this hand dyer. Like the hand dyer will dye specific colorways for that yarn shop, and so they do have an online shop, so you can order. I think that they were out of stock of a lot when I was looking, because there's another colorway that I would like to get for one of these hats. So I was gonna order one, but they were out of stock, so I don't know. I don't know if they'll be making more of them. I was gonna email, I keep forgetting, but I was gonna email and ask if they had the colorway that I wanted, and or if they would be getting more stock of that. But anyways, I really loved knitting with this. It was so much fun to knit with. It was just such a, like, I don't know, just a nicely plied, like, good yarn. I don't even know how to describe it. It was just really nice. That's my Oslo hat. You guys can see the kind of this thing right here. where it folds. Yeah, I'm really excited to see what it's like when it blocks out, because I think it'll help it kind of sit a little bit and like fold a little bit nicer. But yeah, that is my first finished object. It was so much fun to knit. I'm definitely going to be knitting another one of those hats. I think it'll end up being one of my go-to hat patterns. Especially when I have like one skein left over of like a DK weight thing from like a sweater or something, I feel like I will just be able to knit up that hat really easily. I love that it's all stockinette. It just makes it super easy to knit, and sometimes, you know, the back and forth like ribbed hats where it's, or not back and forth, but like you're, you know, doing a 1x1, like, you know, something like the classic ribbed hat by Purl Soho, or even the weekend hat where it's like 1x1 rib. I just feel like that can be really hard on my hands, especially with the small circumference. So, you know, you're doing the whole hat in ribbing, and it's just like, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I'm in the mood for it, and other times I'm not. So, I think that'll end up being one of my go-to hat patterns. I still need to try out the weekend hat. I need to find, I was originally going to do the weekend hat with that yarn, and it just wasn't working out. Like, it just didn't like how it was looking. So I need to, at some point, get some different yarn and try out the weekend hat and see if I like that pattern. But I also really need to try out the Musselburgh hat. Like, I've been meaning to knit that for a while, and I just never get around to it. But I need to get some yarn like specifically for it, I think. And so I feel like comfortable that I have enough yarn to knit like the size that I want and all of that. And yeah, so I have a few more hat patterns to try out, but that one is definitely going to be one that, you know, when I'm like, I don't know what else to do, and have a skein of yarn, DK weight yarn, like, that's going to be my go-to hat. And if I want to buy some hand-dyed yarn but I don't want to commit to, you know, a garment, then again, probably that'll be my go-to hat pattern. So I had this much left of the first skein, and then I have a full, you know, whole other skein of this yarn. So I will have to figure out what I want to do with that. Maybe make another hat, maybe for a friend, and we can be twinsies, or maybe I'll find some other, like a scrappy project or some sort of striped garment that I can throw that yarn into, because it is really, really pretty. I really liked this colorway. Just pulled out some of my own hair that was wound up in this. Yeah, so anyways, that's my first finished objects. Again, it does need blocking, and I think I wove the ends in already, but I do need to block it and then cut the ends. I haven't done that yet, but it's, in my opinion, it's finished. Okay, and then my next finished object is also not blocked, and it is also has not have the ends woven in. I just finished this like Friday night. Today's Sunday. I finished this Friday night, and I just kind of wanted to move on to a different project and get some other things, you know, casted on. I had some gauge swatching I wanted to do, so I didn't finish weaving in the ends or blocking this, and I didn't want to block it because it would have been wet and that would have been hard to show you guys, so I'll block it after this. But it's my Tolsta tee. So this is my fingering weight Tolsta tee. This is a pattern by Rebecca Clow, aka the Crayabea. And this is my second time knitting the Tulsa tee. The first time knitting the fingering weight version, but the second Tulsa tee I've made. And I went ahead and I knit this in, I did the size 4. I think I said that if I was going to knit the Tulsa tee again, I would go up a size, because my other one was too tight, but I'm pretty sure my gauge was off. And I mean, it's not too tight where I can't wear it. Like, it has a little bit of negative ease, but it's not too bad. But I did bind off too tightly on the arms, and so I need to like go back and fix that if I'm gonna want to wear it, because otherwise it's not super comfortable. But I did a gauge swatch for this, and I was pretty close. I think I was like pretty spot on with my gauge, so I went ahead and just did the size 4 because I figured like otherwise it might be too big. So I did do this, and I measured it. And pre-blocking it is 42 inches, so I have 1 inch of positive ease on it, which is kind of actually perfect with this yarn. And the yarn is discontinued, And I didn't say what it was in my last podcast, so I should probably make sure I say what it is, but I need to find the ball band and I don't know where it is. Okay, I had to look it up on my phone because I don't remember where the ball band is, but it is EY Select Viso, and it is, I'm pretty sure it's discontinued. I'm seeing it like listed for some reason on some yarn shop, but they have like 0 in stock. I'm like, why do you still have this page up? But because I'm pretty sure it's discontinued. And I also was talking as if this was 100% linen yarn, and it's not, and I don't know why I thought it was mostly linen. Like I thought it was like 90% linen and 10% nettle fiber, but it's actually 60% cotton and 28% linen and 12% nettle fiber according to this website, which might be different from what the ball band of mine says, because I want to say it was like only 10% nettle fiber, but honestly I'm not great with numbers, so who knows. The yarn's discontinued, which is kind of sad because I actually really like how this feels. So if you know of any yarn that you really love that's like a, you know, 60-30 linen type blend, something around there, let me know, because I'm really liking how this is feeling, and I would love to find something comparable to it to knit more like summery tops in, because I feel like this would be perfect for the summer. It's very lightweight. I feel like once I block it, I honestly feel like it's going to be kind of drapey. Maybe it won't be, I don't know, but it feels nicely drapey now without blocking, so yeah, I'm really excited. I'll try and like pop this on real quick after I film the podcast and show you what it looks like on, even though it's not blocked. And then let's see, the only modifications I did for this Tulsa tee, I made it way more cropped than the pattern calls for because I am shorter, so like that just makes sense to do if I'm going for a cropped look anyways. And then on the sleeves, I did knit them longer. I think they hit about like maybe like here on me. I don't know if you guys can tell, kind of like right here. And I also, on the arms, I did not go down in needle size for the ribbing, which makes the ribbing look really quite messy, but that's okay. I'm trying to not be a perfectionist when it comes to my ribbing, because I feel like some yarns it's not gonna look as good as in other yarns, or like your knit stitches, you know, because like, I don't know if you guys can tell, but like the knit stitches are just really pulled, like they're just really loose. I don't really like that. It's not like super neat. But I'm trying to like get over it, because I think with this yarn, like maybe if I had done like half twisted rib it might have worked, but I don't know, maybe I'll try that at some point. But I just didn't want the sleeves to be like, you know, like around my arm, like like I didn't want them to really like hug my arm. I wanted it to be very loose, and I think I was just having the memory of my previous Tulsa tee where the arms were too tight. I just didn't want that look at all. I didn't even want it in the slightest. I wanted to have kind of more flowy sleeves, so that's why I did that. There might have been better ways to do it, and just like maybe not done the ribbing, maybe done like a, you know, I-cord edge or something, but I've never done that before and I didn't really want to mess around with it. I just wanted to kind of stick to the pattern as much as possible. But anyways, that is my Tulsa tee. It's done. I just gotta block it, and I'm really excited to wear it. I think it's a really nice like neutral color that I just feel like would look good with a lot of different things, and yeah, it's kind of a nice, like, I don't know, kind of a nice oatmeal-y kind of color, so I really like that. And yeah, I do have leftover, like quite a bit of leftover yarn. So this is so weird to me. This Tulsa tee took not even 2 skeins of this yarn. So that to me, and it was so funny because I was just watching Rebecca's podcast that I think went up like earlier this week, and she was literally saying how since the Tulsa tee, since she can do it in 2 skeins of fingering weight, that she is going to be doing a lot of hand-dyed ones because it's such little yarn to make a garment, and I was like, same. Like, I just feel like if there's hand-dyed yarn that I want, but I'm not sure what to make with it, but I really want it, I could buy like 2-3 skeins of yarn and have a Tulsa tee. And I actually had 5 skeins of this originally. So the other ones are up here. So I have 3 full ones. I have a little bit left of this second one. So I was actually thinking maybe next summer, or like next spring, so I'm like ahead of the game. I might try and knit, like, I might try to use the Tulsa tee. I have this like vision in my head of a kind of drapey, like loose, kind of flowy garment, like, you know, blouse. And I was thinking like maybe I'll find a pattern that's more similar to what I want and I'll just do that. But I was thinking I could use the Tulsa tee as like the base of it, and then kind of like do whatever, you know, different kind of, they would have different sleeves. Like I'm thinking like something long sleeved and kind of flowy. And I think it could just look really cute. But I think I might also just keep my eyes out for a pattern that like is exactly what I'm picturing, because I'm sure there is one out there, and then it would be less thinking that I'd have to do on my part. So yeah, but I'm gonna be making another garment in this because I love the color and I love the fabric that I made, and I have enough to do that. So and it would be really cropped. I'm thinking like something really cropped, and that like cropping a garment I feel like is really easy. You just don't knit it as much or as long. So I feel like I could find a pattern that is like exactly what I'm thinking of. But yeah, I'm really excited for that. But I don't think I'll be doing that anytime soon because I need to work on sweaters and maybe like thicker t-shirts and stuff that will keep me a little bit warmer now that we are headed into the colder months, which again I'm so excited for. Yeah, so those are all my finished objects. I'm trying to remember what else I would have to say about them, but I think that's everything. If I missed any details that you like must know or you just are curious about, definitely let me know in the comments and I will answer. But I think that's everything. So let's move on to WIPs. I'm just gonna quickly show you my sock. I have not made a ton of progress, but I'm almost about to do the heel flap. I think I just need to knit like a couple more rows, and then I'll have my like, you know, 60-ish rows that I'm knitting for the leg. And yeah, so that is my vanilla sock that's currently on my needles. And the yarn that I'm using is a sock set from Potions and Purls. I have the ball bands sitting next to me. So it's this guy, and it is their Peach Party sock set. I will leave the Etsy site linked down below if you're wanting to get yourself a sock set and you want to see what they have. So far working with this yarn has been an absolute dream. It's perfection. I love it so much. I have more of their sock sets, but I will definitely, even though I already have some, I will definitely be buying more at some point because I really like them. Okay, not much to say about my progress on that one though. Okay, but this next WIP though, okay, I have 2 WIPs in this project bag, so like let me do a little organization first. Okay, so this is my project that I think is cursed. And I'm sorry, I have it, I'm in the middle of a row, so like it's all bunched up right now, but it's like supposed to be, yeah, you can't really see it. This is my Cumulus tee. I'm knitting this in Knitting for Olive Pure Silk in the colorway Sunflower, and this is a PetiteKnit pattern that I'm sure a lot of you already know about. And it's cursed. This project is cursed. Okay, so let me give you the rundown here. So the first thing that went wrong was I bought yarn for this tee, and like that was my intention, was to knit the tee. But then when I got confused and I hadn't purchased the pattern yet, so I was going to find the pattern so I could buy it and cast on, and for some reason I was only finding the Cumulus top, which is the one with the straps, and like top and tee were so similar to me that like I was like, no, like that's what it's called, it's the Cumulus top, like where is the one with the short sleeve? And I like gaslighted myself into thinking that I had made that up, that it just didn't exist. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll just like cast on the Cumulus top. And then I was like watching someone's podcast or something, and I saw them knitting the Cumulus tee, and I was like, that's why I couldn't find it. It's because it's called the Cumulus tee, and that's different than top, even though it sounds so similar. And so I went and I found the pattern on Ravelry finally, and I was like, this is the one. This is the one that I meant to cast on this whole time. So I ripped back what I had done for the Cumulus top and started the Cumulus tee. And then if you watch my last podcast, you know one of my needles broke, I had to get replacements, and so I was not able to knit on this for like a couple weeks, I think. And then when I was knitting, when I had to refamiliarize myself with the pattern, right? Because like it had been so long since I picked this up, and that's when I realized I've been doing the pattern wrong this whole time. There's a few increase rows that you are repeating every so often, right? And there's like different ones, so there's like one round of increases that you repeat, and then there's a different round of increases that you repeat, and that it's in the pattern, it's like the third row of this like set of rows that you're repeating. And I read it wrong. I was basically, when a pattern is like, okay, from this asterisk to this asterisk, like repeat that. In my brain, I like moved the asterisk over. So it was including things that weren't supposed to be repeated, like in the row. It was just how the row started, but you weren't supposed to repeat them for every single raglan stitch, but I was. So basically, I was increasing way too much. Like every third row, and yeah. So I think it kind of messed with the shape a little bit. I don't know if you can tell, it's because it's all bunched up on cable, so like honestly you probably can't tell. But like the shape is a little off now that I'm looking at it closely. I'm like, I don't think it's supposed to look like that, and yeah, it's super frustrating. And this is something where like you're doing these repeats from pretty much when you cast on to like that's how you're doing the first part of the tee. So I have to frog the whole thing. Like there's not really a point I can go back to and start over from. Like I just have to frog the whole thing, and it's really sad. So it's like 3 things that have kind of gone wrong with this project. So I'm kind of like, maybe I'll frog it and kind of let it sit for a little bit and come back to it later. But I was really enjoying knitting this. I really like the yarn. I really was liking the pattern, even though I was doing it wrong. So yeah, I gotta frog this, which is sad, because this is, for fingering weight yarn, like that's a lot of work. So that's sad, but I'm really trying to have the mindset of like, you know what, I had fun knitting it, so I'm just having more fun because I gotta knit it twice, so I'm gonna have double the fun, right? Like, just more knitting for me. But I wanted to show you like how far I had gotten before I frogged it, so it's kind of how far we're at. Not that you can really tell because it's all bunched up on the cable, so it doesn't really like look like anything yet. But anyways, I think that's a fun question. If you want to answer in the comments, what was your worst like frogging experience? Like what was your most like heartbreaking, sorry to make you relive it, but like just that time where you had to frog something? And yeah, I would just love to hear like your worst frogging stories, I guess. Why? I don't know, I just think it would be interesting. And also like, or maybe you don't frog. I'd be interested in hearing that too, because I know there's some people who are like, I don't care, I'm just gonna keep going even though I know I messed up. And I feel like that's valid too. I feel like I could maybe keep going with this and just, but I feel it could be so wonky. Like it could come out so wonky, not the right size. So I just feel like I gotta rip it back, like start over. Because I want it to fit me well, but I know that there are some knitters out there who are more, like I'm a process knitter and a project knitter. Like I love the process, but I also want the finished object and I want it to fit well. So for me, like, I gotta frog it, but I know that there's some people out there who are like, I'm just in it to knit, and if it doesn't become a wearable thing, that's okay. And I feel like that's valid too, but I would be curious to know if you would frog this or if you would leave it. I'm frogging it either way. But anyways, let's go ahead and move on to, sorry, I'm taking the skeins of pure silk that I have in this bag because I won't be using them right now. Okay. Okay, so my next WIP, pulling it out of the bag right now, so hopefully it won't. Okay, it did not get too tangled. All right, so this is my next WIP, and it is the Barbara shawl. It's kind of curving, so, but I think that'll block out. But this is my Barbara shawl. I'm probably showing you the wrong side, but I think it's reversible, so I don't think it matters, but this is what it's looking like. So obviously don't have much to show, but I did recast this on since my last podcast because my needles came in, my 3mm needles, and I wanted to do it on that size because when I was knitting it up, I think I was knitting it up on like 3.5mm or 3.25mm, I don't remember, and it was just looking a little chunkier than I think it was supposed to be. So I went down a needle size or went down to the suggested needle size, and I feel like this looks like what I want it to look like. So so this pattern is, I feel like this project, by the way, this is by Gregoria Fibers. It's the Barbara shawl. Did I say that? I don't think I did. And I'm knitting it in some hand-dyed yarn from Coastal Yarns, which is a yarn shop in Cannon Beach, Oregon. And this is their Sneaker Waves DK in Driftwood. It's really, really, really pretty. They also sell online if you are wondering. And yeah, I really like knitting with this. It's a really nice yarn to knit with. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and the pattern is really fun. I think this is called Broken Garter Stitch. I could be totally wrong, but I think it's called Broken Garter Stitch, and I really like it. It's so textured, and like, it's just fun. It's so much fun to knit. I will say I wasn't a huge fan of how the pattern was written. I definitely feel like this is a shawl that a beginner could easily knit if the pattern was expanded on. Because as it is, the pattern gives you all of these setup rows to do, and then it kind of just trails off. It kind of is just like, okay, you can figure out the rest, and you can figure out the rest. It's not that hard, but I think for me, being more of a beginner, I was kind of like, you know, what? Like, it kind of felt like when you're learning to ride a bicycle and, you know, your parents are behind you, like, holding you steady, and then you keep going and then they let go, and then you look back and you're like, hello. And then you crash because, you know, I'm just kidding. But it kind of felt like that. It was like holding your hand and then all of a sudden let go, and I was like not prepared. So it's fine. It's not really that big of a deal, but I was kind of just like, why wouldn't you just write out the repeat rows that you're supposed to do? Because the way it was written, it like confused me even more, personally. And I figured out what you're supposed to do, and I wrote out the repeat rows for myself so that I could like not have to think about it every single time, and it was really easy. It was really, really easy to just write it out. It did not take very long, and if I can do it, then like a pattern designer definitely, obviously, could have written it out and just kind of chose not to, and I don't really understand that choice because it would have been less words to just be like, okay, now here are the repeat rows, repeat these rows until you have this many stitches. It would have been like clear, concise, and it would have taken up less space in the pattern than like what was there, and it just, I don't know. But again, that's how my brain works. Maybe other people's brains work differently, so, you know. So like, it could have made complete sense to everyone else, and I'm just a little different, but it's all good because I figured it out, and now I'm just gotta knit it. this is where we're at so far, and I hope I get to show you in the next podcast. I hope it'll be a bigger amount of yarn and progress to share with you. So there's that WIP, and I do have my colorwork hat that I'm working on, but I have not touched it since the last podcast, so I'm not going to talk about it, or not talk about it in depth anyways. I am making the slowest progress on my Semper sweater. So I'm done with the short rows and I'm doing the raglan increases, and right now I'm kind of blocked on it because I need to free up some needles because, what are these? These are 4.5 millimeter needles, and my other wood ones that are like, you know, these are shorties, and I need to put this on a bigger cord with bigger needles. And I don't know, I think it might be my colorwork hat that is using my 4.5 millimeter needles that are wood, that are also wood, and I don't think I have any other ones that I could use where I feel like where the finish is like the same as these. I'm getting a lot of fiber in my throat right now. Apologies. It is, the mohair is like but anyway, so with this, I was working on it recently, like yesterday, and I was like getting a lot of progress on it, and then I was like, oh, I need to switch needles because it's getting a little crowded on these cables. And then I was looking for the needle that I wanted to move it to, or the needles that I wanted to move it to, and I'm like, where are these? So we'll figure something out. I may or may not have bought some needles that I can use for this, so we'll see. But I don't like going from like wood needles to like metal needles, and even within wood I don't like changing up the finish too much because I don't want it to like change my gauge, even though I might just be being a little paranoid because I don't know if it really would change all that much, but I'm just like nervous and I don't want to deal with it, so I'm like, let's just use ones that are similar to this. Okay. Also, sorry, this is a Semper sweater by the Knit Purl Girl. I'm using Knitting for Olive Merino and their soft silk mohair, which is getting in my nose, and it's in the color Hazel, I believe. Yes, Hazel. Okay. So there's that WIP, and that one is going to be my main priority once I get the needles for it. That'll be my main project going forward. That's going to be like my highest priority project. And then I also have a new cast on, so I'll move on to that. And this is one where I'm not sure if I might recast this on, we'll see, because I don't know, I'm not sure. But when I bought my replacement needles for the Cumulus tee, I decided that because of the traumatic experience of one of my knitting needles breaking, that I was going to buy myself some yarn. And so I bought a kit of like the Blue Sky Fibers kit for it's the 27 color snood. And it's like I don't know, it's like a cross between like a cowl and one of those like shrugs, I think they're called. I don't know. I've never worn or knit anything like it. And this is what I have so far, so not very much. I finished the ribbing and I need to change colors soon. So I'm using a different main color. Okay, sorry, I had to pull out the yarn from the plastic bag because it was like super crinkly. So this is the main color. It is the Blue Sky Fibers Woolstock Worsted in the colorway Driftwood, which is funny because I also am working with that hand-dyed yarn that's called Driftwood. They're very different colors. But yeah, so this is the main color. So I have 4 skeins of that. This one's already caked up and ready. And then it comes with I don't know why that's funny to me. It comes with this little bundle of the Woolstock Worsted, but in all of the different colors. This is really funny. So yeah, I basically, it has 27 colors. So there's gonna be a stripe, I think, with every single color except for obviously driftwood, because that's the main color I'm using. So yeah, I gotta stop doing that. But yeah, I just thought this would be fun, and it just looked like something that I could wear. Let me put these down. It just felt like something I'd be able to wear when I'm, you know, when your arms get cold and it's like kind of like up here gets cold but like everywhere else is fine, or you know, you're like wanting your hands to be free, you don't want your hands like underneath a blanket, kind of like a snuggie. Like I'm kind of going for like a little bit of a snuggie vibe with this. So you know, I can throw it on and be like knitting, like my hands will be free, but like my shoulders and my upper arms will be nice and toasty. So I thought it would be kind of cool. However, the gauge on this was weird to me, and now that I'm sitting thinking about it, I'm like, you know, maybe I should have done a gauge swatch and like blocked it, because I didn't do that. I did a little bit of a gauge swatch, then I ripped it out and started knitting when I found the kind of the right gauge. But this pattern calls for US size 9, and I am knitting it on US 10.5, so 6.5 millimeters, because, and I still didn't get gauge, because the gauge is 16 stitches for 4 inches, or 10 centimeters. And I just, with a worsted weight, that's like, trying to get that on US 9s, like, I don't know. I am probably tighter than average knitter, but when I was trying to go up, like I would have had to go up maybe 1 or 2 more needle sizes, and when I went up to US size 11, like my stitches were just not even forming at that point. Like, you know what like stockinette stitches look like, obviously, they're little V's. They weren't looking like that anymore. Like, they were not nice little V's, they were just like not forming correctly. Like, I don't know how to describe it. The fabric it was creating was like super loose, and like, yeah, it just like the stitches, it's literally the only way I can describe it is they just were not forming properly. Like, they did not look like knit stitches anymore. And so anyways, I was really confused, because I was like, how did anyone get this yarn to get a 16 stitch per 4 inch gauge and still have it look like nice sock? Like, I'm confused. I'm confused, and I feel like this isn't the first time this has happened where I'm like, how did anyone get that gauge and have a fabric that looked nice still? Like, so I feel like I'm obviously missing something, but I decided instead of going up another needle size to get the right gauge, I was just going to kind of try to do some math, and I ended up casting on 210 stitches instead of the cast on number it says, which I'm not going to say in the pattern because it's a paid for pattern. So, but anyway, so this is what I have, and I did the ribbing, and the ribbing is looking a little sloppy, a little loose, but I'm like, maybe it'll block out, so like maybe I should have gone down a needle size for the ribbing, but it didn't say to. And but then some people in their Ravelry notes said that they wish that they had, or that they did, and so I'm like, oh, maybe I should have done that. But I don't think it matters too much, so I think I'm gonna keep going with it. So I had to change the battery on my camera, so sorry if the angle is a little different. So what I was trying to say, so I was looking this up when my camera died. So like for a worsted weight, like it's like 16 to 20 stitches, right? But I'm just confused, like how, so I guess that's my question, right? If you know the answer, is what do you do when you're at that, like such a loose, like you're butting up on, you know, that kind of lower end of stitches for a yarn weight category, and your stitches are looking like super loose and wonky. Like they're just not crisp, there's no stitch definition, like it's just kind of, you know, because that's the thing, is like when I'm looking at the finished object, like the pictures and everything, you can see like very nice crisp stockinette, like defined stitches, and so I'm just confused. I just don't understand. And do you think people are like really stretching out there, like really pinning it and stretching it, or like what do you think is going on there, or like what could I possibly be doing wrong that I could look into maybe fixing? Because I feel like this isn't the first time that this has happened where I'm like, how did they get this? Anyways, enough about that. I think this is still gonna be a fun thing to knit, and I went with the gauge that I got with the size 10.5 needles, and increased my stitch size, so it should work out. And yeah, hopefully it'll work out. Hopefully I did the math correctly. There's a high probability I did not. We'll find out. But yeah, I think this will be a fun knit to do. Just kind of mostly, for the most part, it's gonna be mindless stockinette. There's a little bit, you know, striping. There's some decreases at some point, so you know there will be some things that I need to do, but for the most part it's just going to be stockinette and around. So I'm looking forward to this. I think it's going to be a really great TV knit. I think the other thing I need to remember to do is cake up the minis of all the colors so that I can, because I had to stop knitting on this the other day because I need to do my first stripe and it wasn't caked up, so I was like, oh, I'll do it later. So, and those are actually all my WIPs. I thought for some reason I had more. I do have the colorwork hat, but again, don't need to show you because it's literally the same as last time. And that's like, those are the only things I've been working on, but it feels weird. It feels like I don't have enough, but that's like plenty of WIPs. But anyways, I do have some acquisitions and some future plans. So I already showed you the snood. So this was a new acquisition, this wool stock worsted, in the bundle of minis from Blue Sky Fibers. And then I have 3 more acquisition projects that I bought yarn for. So I have a lot of acquisitions. So the first one I'll talk about that I'm so excited for is I bought some yarn to do the Dorney sweater by Rebecca, aka the Grey Bea. This is West Yorkshire Spinners fleece, their Jacob fleece in their Aran weight, and this is the ecru, I'm not sure how to say it, but their ecru colorway, which is like I think it's like natural, like it wasn't dyed, I think. And this is the same yarn that Rebecca used for one of her samples, and I wanted to just use the same yarn because sometimes you just don't want a chance, buying a yarn that you think will work for a project and then it ends up not, like sometimes you just want to be like sure that it's gonna work for the project that you have in mind for it. And so I decided I would go and try this out because I've never really worked with yarn quite like this before. I've tried their sock yarn, which I think is also British wool, but that's like such a different vibe. But this is Aran weight, so I don't know, and it feels more rustic than what I'm used to. I don't know if anyone would call this a rustic wool, because I'm sure it can get more rustic than this, but in my limited experience, this is the most rustic wool so far that I've worked with, or that I will be working with, and yeah. So I love the idea of a creamy white cable knit sweater. I'm just very excited. I think it's gonna be so much fun. So I have this. Yeah, so I bought 10. That's what I think I needed. I'm pretty sure that I needed for my size. That seems like a lot, but I think I'm just very used to like fingering weight, like tees and tanks right now. I do have one of them caked up, and here's the other set. I don't want to take them all out yet until I'm like ready for them, but I do have one caked up already because, let me grab it, I did a swatch. You can probably tell it's a little small. So I'm gonna block it and see how it changes the fabric before I do another swatch. I'm gonna have to, because I already went up a needle size from the suggested, I think the suggested size is 4.5 millimeters. I went up to 5 millimeters, and this is nowhere near 4 inches. So I don't know how much it'll like stretch. I don't know how much it's that you're like supposed to stretch it. I've never done cabling on a garment. So I've done cabling before, and I feel pretty confident in my cabling abilities. The swatch is looking a little, it could be a little bit neater, but you know what, it's fine. So I'm gonna block it, see what happens, see how much it stretches, and then I'll probably go up a needle size and knit another swatch. But again, I don't want to go up too many needle sizes because I don't want to change the look of the fabric. I usually only have to go up about like 1 needle size for Rebecca's pattern, so I think I should be able to, maybe I'll see how much this kind of like, how much the cable kind of relaxes once it's blocked, and then probably go up a needle size and then block that and see if that gives me 4 inches, because this was like, if you're stretching it a little bit, it was giving like almost 3 inches, which is like not enough. So but it is, I don't know, I think it'll relax a little bit and that should be good. But if you have any tips for swatching for cable patterns, definitely leave them in the comments for those of us who are not as familiar. But I'm really excited about this. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. It might be a little ambitious for me, but I think the thing is like, I feel like cables are not that difficult in terms of like the concept of them is not hard to me, and like reading the charts doesn't seem like it's super hard. Like I've had a good experience so far with the chart, so like, you know, I feel like confident, but I feel like there's so many like little technique things, like little things to finesse and practice and get better at to make it like, to get really good at cables. But like concept wise, like conceptually, I feel pretty strong with cabling, if that makes sense. I think it's just like actually doing the techniques to make them nice and neat and everything. That's something I will need to practice. And you know, it's practice. Yeah. Okay. So anyways, that is one set of acquisitions for a project and future plans. I am going to cast this on pretty much as soon as I figure out what needle size to get, but it's not going to be one that I'm going to try to rush through. I really want to like take my time with this one and just enjoy the cabling and enjoy how like fall and wintry this project is going to be. And then I have another gauge swatch to show you for another project, and this is for the Donner sweater, or it may be called the Donner pullover. I think it's just the like Donner on Ravelry, but I think the hashtag for it I think was Donner pullover, so I think it's the Donner pullover. But it is by, I'm pretty sure the pattern is by Elizabeth Doherty. I might be getting that wrong. I might be getting them mixed up, but I'm pretty sure. And this is the gauge swatch for it. So I'll hold it up close for you guys to see. I don't remember what this stitch pattern is called. I love this. It's so much, it was really fun. It's actually really simple. Yeah, I think it's gonna be a lot of fun to do. And this is the third swatch that I had to do, and then this was the only one I blocked though. And this is the, I had to go down a couple needle sizes actually. I think I was knitting this on 3 millimeters, which was kind of like interesting because, or was it 3 millimeters? Hold up. Let me consult my little book here. Yeah, I was knitting, yeah. So 3mm needles on this gauge swatch, and that's the first time I feel like I've ever had to go down so many needle sizes from the pattern, because I feel like I'm already a tight knitter, and so usually the pattern suggests a needle size that, you know, I would need to go up, right? So this is, so like I'm I'm a little concerned, like that has me, that's like a little like, you know, grabbing my attention, like, are you sure this is right? So yeah, I'm gonna trust the gauge swatch, I'm gonna trust it, but this was, you know, pretty much spot on 4 inches. And yeah, I really, I'm liking the fabric that it makes. This is for, the yarn is 100% linen, and let me grab it because it is an acquisition. Ooh. So, sorry it's in a plastic bag, but I bought, I'm just gonna grab one. I bought 6 of the Durarum Natura Antigone. I don't know if that's how you say it. Antigone. I'm not sure where the inflections are supposed to be on this, but this is in the shade Hellebore. I think, again, not sure if I'm saying any of this right, but this is it. It's 100% linen. It's really nice. I really like the feel of it. The color was a little different online. It was more pink online, and in person it's a lot more purple, and it's a lot more of a cooler toned purple, I feel like. So it's not exactly the color that I was going for, but I think it's still gonna be really pretty, and I'll still wear it a ton. And the sample that for this pattern, it was in a red, just a really, I feel like, true red color of this yarn, and it was so beautiful, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like I kind of wanted it in red, but I was like, no, let me like try a different color. But I think I'm gonna have to get that red at some point and knit something with it, or just, I think I'm just getting to a place where I'm like, I need to knit something red. I haven't knit anything red for myself, so I'll need to do that. But anyways, that will also be a future cast on. It's definitely meant to be like a summer garment, but it is longer, like it has longer sleeves. I think they might be like 3/4, I can't remember. But I feel like it'll be a good transitional piece, and if I can get it casted on pretty soon, I'm not like in a super big hurry for it, but I think I will prioritize it for the fall and try to get it knitted up. And I was just in the mood for something that would be a little bit more engaging than just, you know, straight stockinette knitting. So this kind of definitely is perfect for that, because it's like some stockinette knitting, but also you have the little, you know, lines of texture in there. So yeah, so I meant it when I said I'm going to continue to knit like tees and that type of thing throughout the year. I'm going to kind of spatter them in, is that the right word? Sprinkle them in throughout the year, here and there, just because I do wear t-shirts throughout the year. Like sometimes it'll, you know, if it's really hot inside, if someone, you know, go over to someone's house and they've got the heat on higher than I'm used to, you know, might need to shed some layers and all of that. So I think it'll just be nice to have a few t-shirts or blouses kind of knitting up throughout the year. Okay. And that brings me to my last acquisition for this podcast, which is some drops. I got some drops Lima, and this is in the colorway 8112. So try to give you a close up here. It's kind of this very like pale, I think in person it pulls a little bit more lavender, like just like a very pale, kind of cool toned lavender, but it's not too cool toned where I wouldn't like it on me, if that makes sense. Like the color I feel like is one, and I don't know, maybe it's more neutral than I'm saying, but I am copying Lizzie from Hive Knits and Natters. She was doing the poppy tee in this exact yarn, in the exact shade, and as soon as I saw it I was like, yeah, that's the one I want. And I don't know if I said this already, but I wasn't really super interested in knitting the poppy tee until I saw Lizzie's. Like, I think I just needed to see it in that color. Yeah. So I'm gonna knit the poppy tee, and I don't know when I'm gonna cast that on. I might hold off a little bit because I do want to prioritize my sweaters, so might need to kind of wait on that a little bit. But this is a wool and alpaca blend, so it's gonna be, you know, a good, I think, tee for you know, fall, winter, and spring. And yeah, I'm really excited about it. But when I saw hers, I was just like, for some reason, I'd seen a lot of people knit the poppy tee, and like Amy from Knee Knits knit it in that like beautiful kind of like royal blue, like just very like stunning blue color. And I was looking at it, I was like, that is beautiful, I love it, like don't get me wrong, but for some reason I was like, but I don't think I want to knit it for myself. And I you know, saw a few other people's, and it wasn't calling to me until I saw it in that color, and then I was like, oh wow, that's the color, that's what I want. So at that point I was like, all right, I guess I'm knitting the poppy tee. I have no choice, I must do it. Okay. Anyways, that's my last acquisition, or last set of acquisitions. I do have some more yarn coming, but I wanted to talk a little bit about future plans. So I do have some more yarn on its way to me, but after that, so like as of right now, I don't want to purchase any more yarn until I finish. There's like 4 projects that I'd like to finish before I buy more yarn. So one is the socks that I showed you earlier. The second is the Semper sweater. And then the third one is the snood. And then the fourth one is my colorwork hat. So those are the 4 projects that I'd like to finish before I allow myself to buy more yarn. And I feel like that's a good mix of things that I could finish, and I have many things to cast on if I feel, you know, that cast on energy coming back. So yeah, I don't want to buy any more yarn until I have those finished. So I'm kind of going on a little bit of a yarn diet, and then I'll reevaluate when I'm done with those projects, and because I'm sure there'll be some more things that I want to purchase. But I do have some yarn coming. I have some yarn coming for a cardigan, because I would love to, and I honestly, no, I need to know. I was like, maybe I'll break my yarn diet for this, but no, I shouldn't. I really want to knit the Leaf cardigan by Rebecca, by Cray, but I've never knit a cardigan before, and I feel like trying to do something like intarsia, which I've never done before, on a construction that I've never done before, is probably not the best idea. So I'm not gonna do that. But instead, I'm going to knit a cardigan. I'm going to knit I think it's the Home Cardigan by Kadri, because I was watching a video and it had mentioned that it was a good one for beginners, and it was a style that I felt like I liked. It is with like chunky weight yarn, I believe. And so I don't know how I feel about that, because I don't really like knitting with like bulky weight yarn. But I wanted to have a cardigan that knit up pretty quickly, and that I could kind of learn the concept, be a little bit more familiar with that type of construction before I knit something that's a little bit more advanced. And maybe too I'll be like, oh my gosh, I hate knitting cardigans, and maybe like then I won't want to do it. But I just felt like I needed to try one that was a little bit more beginner friendly first, and that was the pattern that I landed on, and decided to go for. I did buy some yarn for that, so I have some yarn coming for that. Some cheap yarn from Knit Picks, because again, I was not wanting to spend a ton of money on a construction that I'm so unfamiliar with. I kind of feel like I'm knitting like my first sweater again, you know what I mean? Like I'm like, oh, I need to like go cheap on the yarn, like very easy pattern, so that, you know, I don't get like overwhelmed or worry about like messing up like really nice yarn, and you know, anyways. So I have some coming for that. I have another set of yarn coming for a sweater. I have a sweater quantities worth of yarn also from Knit Picks that I'm going to try out for a sweater. And then I also, so I have a couple sweaters, like a cardigan and another sweater for future plans. And then some other, I have a couple, I think I just have like one more order coming for yarn for a different project. I'll share when I have it with me. But yeah, I think that is pretty much everything. So I've got some things to cast on, I've got some things to finish, and that will be what I'm gonna work on for the next couple of weeks. And I'll try and be back here in another 2 weeks to share with you guys, you know, my progress. But I didn't want to go another month, you know, in between podcast episodes, because like that has proven to be, there's too much to talk about, way too much to talk about. So really quickly, in my past couple of episodes, I've done a little bit of a chat at the end about things that I've been consuming, like TV shows, books, etc. And I do want to continue sharing the things that I enjoy knitting, you know, like if I'm knitting while watching a TV show, things like that. But I haven't really, so I stopped watching Chuck. I was rewatching that, but kind of, I got to, I don't know, it was like season 4 or something, and I was kind of like, I'm not really feeling this anymore. So I started to rewatch Once Upon a Time, and I've never finished that show. And I remember enjoying it for the most part. So I'm rewatching that. I'm on season 1. And it's been fun, and I think I was in kind of a Snow White mood because I think there's been a lot of criticism of the Snow White movie because of the interviews that, I don't know what her name, I keep forgetting her name, but the actress that was cast for Snow White, the interviews that she was giving were like having people kind of like, oh my gosh, like what the heck, because she was like she was like dissing the original Snow White. I think she was like talking kind of negatively about some of the other cast members as well, if I recall correctly. And then I saw a picture on TikTok of her, like of the costume, like the Snow White dress, and people were like, oh my gosh, this looks like something you would pick up at like a Halloween store, you know, like this is not like, you know, for the budget that that movie should have, like that is not it. And yeah, so I was kind of it just had Snow White on the brain, I guess, because of watching TikToks like that just randomly pop up about that. And I'm not like super invested, like I honestly don't care if they, because I think they were like, I don't know, I heard that they were thinking about maybe pulling the plug on that movie. And I don't really care either way with all of the stuff that's going on with like the writers striking and like all of that. It's just kind of like, you know, that whole industry needs like a detox, needs like to be reworked so that the people that are doing all of the work get paid more. And so I'm just like, I don't really care like what happens with that movie, like I don't know, I'm not invested is what I should say. And but I think I just had Snow White on the brain, so when I saw Once Upon a Time like come up, I was like, oh, I never finished that, like let's watch that. So that was kind of fun. It's been fun to knit too. I've been enjoying it. But that's all I really have to talk about. Like I have a book that I just started last night that is promising. It's like called Rowan. It's kind of confusing. Let me like see if I can pull up the, okay, so it's called Rowan the Lachlan Feuds, and it's by 2 authors. It's by Robin D. Mailey, I might be pronouncing that correctly, and Ellie Madison. So the first book is called The Scarlet Princess, but on Kindle Unlimited it actually has the 4 books, so it's a complete series. And I think there's also like a spin-off series too, so I potentially have 8 books I could be reading maybe. But the first one's Scarlet Princess, and then on Kindle Unlimited it like groups them together, so you just get like this like essentially like a box set but like for Kindles, and so it has the 4 books all together in like one. And I started reading that yesterday, and like so far so good. I feel like we have like a sassy main character, which we love, and it's supposed to be enemies to lovers. I'm not sure if I'm sold on that. They don't seem like they're super like they don't like each other, but it doesn't really feel like they're like 100% hating each other. Like it doesn't really feel like enemies to lovers, maybe more like, I don't know. We'll see. But right now it doesn't seem like that serious of enemies, but we'll see what happens. And it's kind of like, so far it feels like kind of an Outlander vibe, but without the time travel and with like a touch, like a sprinkle of like fae. So I'm not sure how, I haven't really gotten to, like there wasn't that much world building within the first few chapters, which kind of lets you like get into the book right away, but also kind of wondering like how does the fae stuff enter in? Like it's only been mentioned like once, like kind of offhand, like, so I'm not sure. There's like a little, it seems to be like there's a little bit of magic, but like I don't know how it plays in yet. So it kind of feels like, yeah, like Outlander, but no time travel, plus like just a sprinkle of fae. So we'll see. But so far the writing has been pretty good. There's nothing that has made me be like, oh my gosh, I like, the dialogue is good, the characters seem like well developed and you know, dimensional, like they're not, you know, flat, and the main character is not annoying yet. We'll see what happens, but that's probably one of my biggest pet peeves, is when the main character reads more like a, you know, really whiny, angsty teenager. Like I can't do those, but especially when they're supposed to be like a 20-something-year-old adult. So, but so far, this main character, I'm really liking her, and yeah, and her name is Rowan, so it's like the name of the book, but like, or like the series, is named after her. Anyways, but yeah, it's so far so good. But I'm only on like chapter 3 or 4, so like it remains to be seen if I will continue with the series, but I have high hopes, and this is the first book that I've had hopes for since I finished Fourth Wing. And Fourth Wing was a really good book, but don't get me wrong, it wasn't because it was such a good book that I haven't been able to find anything that, it's not like the books are like, oh, they're good, but they just don't compare to Fourth Wing. Like, no, it's just like all the books that I've read coincidentally since I finished Fourth Wing have just been not good. Like, they're just not well written, the dialogue's weird, like, they're just not, like, I just couldn't get into them, and I'm like, I have no interest in reading this. So this is like the first book that's like promising, and I'm very excited, so I'll keep you updated. Let me know if you've read it. Don't give me any spoilers, because I will hold a grudge against you forever. But I do not like spoilers. I'm not one of those people that's like, oh yeah, so you can totally like tell me all the things. Like, no, I want to be surprised. But if you have read it and you liked it, definitely let me know. Or if you didn't like it, you could also let me know that. Just again, no spoilers, please and thank you. And yeah, if there's any books that you guys have been enjoying that are like fantasy, romance, somewhere in that department, sci-fi maybe, let me know. I would love to know what you're reading, especially if they're books that I might want to read too. If you have any recommendations for me, definitely let me know. That's it. That's all I have today. So thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for being here. I hope you had a good time listening to me talk about knitting. I hope you got some knitting in yourself while you were watching, and if you want to let me know what you're knitting on or what you're crafting on, I would love to hear. Let me know if you're working on any of these projects, or if you've done any of these projects. Let me know your experience, or if you've worked with any of this yarn. Let me know your thoughts on it. Just give me all the thoughts on on all the yarn. But yeah, anyways, have an amazing day. Hope you get lots of knitting time in the next couple of days, and I hope to see you back here soon in another podcast. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up before you go, and if you're not subscribed to my channel, I would really appreciate it if you would consider subscribing, help out my channel a little bit. But yeah, so anyways, I'm gonna go now. I'm gonna stop talking. So thank you again for being here. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will see you in my next knitting podcast. Bye.
Alright, this is a song that I wrote about falling too fast, but I wouldn't know anything about that.
I don't wanna lose my grounding, so you catch me not responding. And I press my lips together so you don't find any answers.